Welcome to webinar number 2 in the Promoting Employment for Homeless Veterans series of presentations, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Labor Veterans Employment and Training Service, the National Veterans Training Institute, or NVTI, and the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans. For the next 25 minutes, we'll be looking at ways we can assist homeless veterans overcome practical, logistical, or administrative barriers to employment. When NVTI trainers ask our course participants to generate a list of obstacles that interfere with their clients' ability to find and keep a good job, the lack of reliable transportation is almost always at the top of the list. Reliable and convenient transportation is the foundation of consistent and punctual work attendance. It determines the geographic range across which a client can search for jobs, and it allows them to work different shifts or non-standard work schedules. So we will use transportation as the primary example of a barrier throughout today's webinar, but the techniques and principles we discuss can be used to help clients address other practical barriers, including a lack of reliable or affordable child care, missing legal documentation, and similar circumstances. Ideally, as we work through the stages of assisting clients, including assessment, planning, and follow-up, 3 good things will happen. First, our clients will overcome the specific hurdles and overcome barriers, whether small or large, that stand between them and success. Second, if we use a collaborative approach with clients rather than simply trying to solve our clients' problems for them by handing them a solution that we've devised, our clients will also master the problem-solving process they'll need to manage other barriers they are likely to encounter in the future and become the owners of their own success. Third, they will gain more confidence and gain identity, purpose, and a greater sense of self-efficacy as they move along the path to sustainable and rewarding employment. And ideally, they'll learn to anticipate the common glitches or setbacks that may occur as they implement their improvement plans, and how to prevent those setbacks and to devise contingency plans to overcome them. This strategy, helping clients in a way to enhance their capabilities to help themselves, is one we will use in all of our webinars in this series. This strategy incorporates the evidence-based practices that are at the heart of progress-focused methods to helping clients. These practices include motivational interviewing and the principles of positive psychology, an approach that focuses on a client's strengths and capabilities rather than dwelling exclusively on their deficits and deficiencies. Positive psychology is the foundation of the resiliency training that many members of the military receive today. To make these techniques and principles more user-friendly, we've incorporated them into an approach you or your clients can use when working together. The Grow It model consists of 6 elements or phases. Identifying and focusing on the client's most important goals. Exploring and understanding clients' current reality that either impedes or supports their efforts to pursue their goals. Discovering and, if possible, expanding the options the client can draw upon. Crafting the way forward or the plan the client will use to achieve his or her goals. Implementing the plan. And tackling additional challenges or opportunities the client identifies. Another side note, this one about the kinds of challenges our homeless clients may be wrestling with. In a few cases, a client may only need quick, limited assistance dealing with what we'll call a missing pieces challenge. For example, Tony let his driver's license expire several years ago while moving among homeless shelters, and then lost his wallet along with his personal identification. It may be a relatively straightforward process to help him acquire the necessary documents to obtain a copy of your state's driver's manual to study and to make an appointment at the nearest motor vehicle agency office. If his driving skills have become rusty, you might also be able to find a local driver's education program willing to donate several hours of driving practice. So you and Tony might not need to utilize the Grow It model when addressing clear-cut problems like these. More often, however, overcoming or managing the barriers facing homeless clients involves what we'll call complex hurdles. Thomas, for example, lost his license and his car after leaving a bar some months ago. Fortunately, he wasn't seriously injured, but since he lived in a rural area miles from the nearest bus line, he found it increasingly difficult to get to work on time. First, he lost his construction job, and then his home, and then his family. Since it will be a while before Thomas can legally drive again, he will have to acquire an alternative form of mobility. When we help clients deal with complex hurdle challenges, the way forward may often include unfamiliar tasks and new skills, frustrating, disappointing, or discouraging setbacks, new habits or lifestyle changes that clients may have difficulty adapting to, inconvenient or unpleasant compromises or trade-offs, and the need to work with a variety of different agencies or resource providers. Complex hurdle challenges can become even more difficult to resolve because, by definition, homeless clients typically have fewer resources to fall back upon. They may find themselves dealing with frequent or multiple crises that distract them from carrying out the action plans we've helped them develop. And depending on how long they've been homeless and the experience they've endured, they may have a low level of trust and a high degree of skepticism towards officials or agencies of any type, including our American Job Center. At this point, you may want to pause this presentation now, scroll down the page until you see the resource link, and click through the resources for webinar number 2. Once there, you can download and print 2 documents, the Grow It Guide and the Transportation List. That way, you can refer to a hard copy of these tools as we demonstrate their use during the rest of the webinar. Although we'll be introducing the elements of the Grow It approach in a specific order, things are rarely this orderly in real life. We and our clients may find ourselves moving back and forth across the phases we will identify as our clients gain more accurate insights into their reality, as they try out options and learn what works and what doesn't, and as they revise their goals and plans. The Grow It Guide includes questions that will facilitate conversations aimed at helping clients clarify their long-term, intermediate, and short-term goals. Long-term goals rooted in the aspirations the client has for his or her future are important because, as we mentioned earlier, addressing complex hurdles frequently involves disappointing, frustrating, and unpleasant setbacks and compromises. Helping clients describe the life they would like to be living and encouraging them to recall those hopes and to consider how the short-term pain they're enduring is connecting them to a better future can help them persevere in the face of adversity. Over several meetings and conversations, for example, Thomas reveals that gaining steady employment and arranging for the transportation he needs to get and keep a good job will help him reunite his family, and with that, experience again the personal satisfaction and sense of purpose he used to feel when his construction crew completed a project. Intermediate and short-term goals help you and clients develop and implement actions. Thomas identified 3 intermediate goals related to closing the transportation gap. Finding a place to live that is close to a bus or transit hub, thus expanding his employment options. Learning how to use a smartphone application so he can track arrival times of buses and more easily plan trips involving 1 or more transfers. Opening a bank account and saving enough money each month so that when he is again legally eligible to drive, he will be able to afford the down payment and operating cost of a used car. It is also important to learn about the client's goals for each meeting or conversation you hold. Ensuring we address these goals is the best way to build our relationship with the client and increase the odds that he or she will continue making effort to call or make it to the AJC for follow-up meetings or conversations. The questions in the Grow It Guide for the current reality discussion will help you and the client understand their past successes, assets, and strengths, as well as the setbacks they've experienced and limitations or obstacles that might interfere with their success. Using the force field diagram in the Grow It guide can help both you and the client catalog and visualize the factors that may either pull them towards or away from success. Some examples of strengths or assets related to clients' transportation needs include successful strategies they have used in the past to get from point A to point B when they were unable to drive, people they know who own vehicles and would be willing to provide a ride to work on a routine basis, perhaps in return for sharing commuting cost, bus or transit lines they can conveniently reach and their knowledge of routes and schedules, sufficient savings or income to afford transit fares, possession of a bike, the physical ability to walk at least a mile without inconvenience or pain, possession of a current driver's license, sufficient savings, income, or the ability to borrow enough to afford the down payment on a reliable vehicle along with registration, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and of course fuel. Transportation-related limitations or obstacles might include no driver's license or a suspended license, a medical condition or physical disability that prevents driving, an inability to reach public transportation, additional non-work related transportation needs, including a need to travel to and from child care centers, medical providers, or rehabilitation appointments, insufficient savings or incomes, or an inability to borrow enough to afford down payment on a reliable vehicle and its registration, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and fuel. Mapping these factors using a force field diagram helps us and the client identify the supporting elements they can leverage and reinforce, as well as the hurdles they may need to neutralize or manage. While exploring their current reality, clients might identify untapped resources or forms of assistance that exist in their personal networks, but we can expand their range of possibilities by sharing and connecting them with resources, programs, or techniques that we've learned about. The downloadable transportation checklist has the most common transportation-related ideas and resources that NVTI's course participants have shared in our classes. Treat this list as a starting point. You will probably be able to discover additional resources and options in your community, and when you do, add them to the list in the spaces we've included. Your AJC colleagues, especially those who routinely work with clients who struggle with transportation challenges, may be able to help you expand your list of local options. These options range from car ownership programs run by nonprofit organizations aimed at assisting those with low incomes to afford a car, to sympathetic police department that would be willing to make confiscated bicycles available to homeless veterans, perhaps in partnership with a local veterans organization. If one of these options we've listed does not exist in your community, you might consider talking with a local veterans organization or religious congregations with a social ministry focus to see if they're interested in establishing or co-sponsoring a program to fill that gap. There are two broad employment options any job seeker without a vehicle can pursue. First, a client begins by identifying employers he or she would like to work for, and then searches for a viable way to reach those work locations. Once you've customized the transportation checklist for your community so that it includes all of the local available options, you and the client can use it to determine if there is a feasible way for them to reach their preferred employers. Then second, we help the client identify his or her transportation footprint and then encourage them to search for employment opportunities within that footprint. For example, we and the client might identify all of the bus or transit lines that are accessible from his or her current location. Our client can decide how far they are willing to walk to and from a bus stop. A healthy individual ought to be able to maintain a 3-mile-per-hour pace, so a client willing to walk 20 minutes each way would have access to all routes within 1 mile of where they spend their nights. If the local transit system allows bicycles to be transported on buses or rail cars, and the client can obtain a bike, then the routes they can reach may expand significantly. In some communities, there are local bike loaning programs that will also help veterans have access to individual transportation. We can then help the client highlight all of the bus or transit stops along the accessible routes on a local map. Assuming the client is willing to walk 20 minutes to work after they exit a bus or train, we can use a compass to draw a circle within a 1-mile radius around each stop. These circles comprise the client's transportation footprint. Every business and employer within those circles is fair game. We can encourage clients to focus on those employers using a direct canvassing approach that we will describe in webinar number 5. If the client is lucky enough to have a friend, a family member, or acquaintance that is willing to give him or her a ride on a regular basis, you and the client can mark the routes these drivers travel each day. If, as in the previous example, the client is willing to walk 20 minutes after being dropped off, we can mark a corridor extending 1 mile on either side of the routes traveled by each driver willing to provide a ride. Every business within those corridors is now fair game. Of course, neither of these strategies is as convenient as owning a car and driving to and from work. So we may need to have a conversation with our clients about short-term or medium-term trade-offs. Even though buses, carpools, biking, and other non-driving alternatives may not be ideal, clients may decide that they are acceptable stopgap measures. Our clients may need to accept a less than perfect job that's close to a bus line or endure an inconvenient commute 2 times a day until they are able to save enough money or boost their credit score enough to purchase a vehicle, or until their driver's license is reinstated. In other words, solving transportation challenges is often a stair-step process in which the client, over time, progresses closer and closer to a satisfactory solution. And this highlights the importance of identifying aspirational goals that our clients really care about on the front end of the Grow It approach. A client will be far more willing to endure less than perfect transportation arrangements if they are sustained by a compelling vision of eventually reuniting their family or gaining access to personally fulfilling work. There are numerous formats for action plans we and our clients can draw on when determining how to close the gap between their current realities and their desired futures. In the Grow It Guide, we've included one format, the Change Plan Worksheet, drawn from an excellent publication by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services named Enhancing Motivation for Change in Substance Abuse Treatment. Now, another side note, although this publication focuses on helping those with substance use disorders, the principles and techniques described throughout the manual can be adapted for any barrier to employment that involves complex hurdles. We'll tell you how to access this manual along with other useful publications and websites at the end of this presentation. The Change Plan Worksheet provides a framework we and our clients can use as we translate goals into a detailed map of the way forward. It includes space to record the changes the client wants to make or continue making, the most important reasons he or she wants to make these changes, the steps the clients will take, with space to list both specific actions they will take and when they will take those actions, the first steps the clients will take. This can be an important discussion to have to help the client overcome inertia and begin making progress, especially when clients are facing what they perceive to be overwhelming challenges. The ways other people, resources, or programs can help the client move forward, the positive results the clients hope that their plan will have, signs and progress the client can look for that will indicate that the plan is working, factors that could interfere with the client's plan, what the client will do if he or she discovers that part or all of the plan is not working. Even a model action plan can fall apart when it meets the real world. Most of us in our own daily lives find ourselves dealing with discouragement, distractions, emergencies, and unforeseen developments that prevent us from implementing the plans we devise for ourselves. Our homeless clients are likely to encounter these difficulties even more often. As we pointed out earlier, they are less likely to have the surplus material resources, time, energy, support, or emotional reserves that help people overcome those setbacks. We can assist clients during the implementation phase by helping them to Stay motivated by encouraging them to recognize and track their successes and progresses. Break demanding or difficult goals into a series of small, less overwhelming steps that can be more easily completed. Troubleshoot unanticipated complications. Learn about additional resources of programs that can support their efforts and how to gain access to those resources. We mentioned a moment ago that managing transportation gaps is often a stair-step process, and the same is true for many of the individual obstacles that homeless clients face. If we've invested the time and energy to use the collaborative approach to solving problems and pursuing opportunities that we have outlined in this presentation, our clients will be more capable, confident, and motivated to begin tackling the next hurdle. A single webinar can only scratch the surface of the science and evidence-based practices we build the Grow It model on. And we've only provided a brief overview of the transportation resources and options that may be available in your community. So on the resource page, we've provided links to additional information for both the Grow It approach and motivational interview and for transportation. As you review the Grow It resources, keep in mind that the underlying principles, the questions, and the conversational techniques can be adapted for many types of complex hurdles our homeless clients face. The Enhancing Motivation for Change in Substance Abuse Treatment Manual from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration provides a very comprehensive overview of how to nudge our clients in the direction of taking a more active role in overcoming their barriers to employment. It outlines the stages of change that our clients will typically navigate through as they successfully overcome complex hurdles. The pre-contemplation stage, when clients do not yet recognize a personal need to change or are not considering change. The contemplation stage, when clients are aware that they might benefit from a change and are more open to information and conversations about the goals they might pursue. The preparation stage, when clients are considering options and developing plans. The action stage, when clients begin to implement their plans, and the maintenance stages, as clients persist in the face of the inevitable setbacks. We'll take a more detailed look at these stages in future webinars, but if you'd like to get a head start, chapters 4 through 7 provide a nice overview and introduction. The Motivational Interviewing Desk reference from the Sedgwick County, Kansas Corrections Department provides a handy checklist and reminders. The Community Care of North Carolina Motivational Interviewing Resource Guide provides plenty of practical tips for starting, maintaining, and focusing conversations with clients. Court Fisser maintains a blog on progress-focused coaching and frequently summarizes and provides links to new research articles related to positive psychology. His plain language introduction and motivational interviewing questions and techniques is at progressfocus.com. For additional information, type Grow Coaching and Implementation Intentions into your favorite search engine. Finally, Coaching Questions, A Coach's Guide to Powerful Asking Skills by Tony Stoltzfus is a short, easy-to-read, and affordable book. It's only $15, with hundreds of questions we can use to adapt when helping our client address specific barriers to employment. The next set focuses on the resources of transportation options. Without a doubt, your starting point should be job links. This site contains a wealth of ideas and resources for anyone assisting job-seeking clients develop transportation plans. Make sure you click on both the Workforce Professional link and the Resource link. One of these items you'll find on the Job Links page is a link to Training and Employment Notice 2111 from the U.S. Department of Labor's Employment and Training Administration titled Strategies to Meet One-Stop Career Center's Business and Job Seeker Customer Needs for Employment-Related Transportation Services. We've included a direct link to this document in case you don't already have a copy of it. It contains a number of suggestions for helping clients and useful links. If you're an LVER or a business outreach staff member, you'll find dozens of handouts on the Transportation to Work website that you can share with employers that explains the benefits they'll enjoy by subsidizing transit passes, promoting ride sharing, organizing van pools, and employing other tactics that will make it easier and more affordable for low-income employees to get to work each day. Finally, we've included a number of links to websites hosted by local transit systems, ride-sharing, and van pool programs, and organizations that support walking or biking to work. These sites will give you an idea of what might be available in your local community as you explore and map your local transportation assets using our downloadable transportation checklist. We'd like to close this webinar by explaining how you could submit questions you may have. If you scroll down the web page in which you're watching this presentation, you'll see a link labeled Questions and Answers. By clicking on the link, you'll be able to submit a question about anything we've covered today or about issues related to homeless veterans that you'd like us to address in upcoming webinars. We will research the answers to your questions and post it to the Questions and Answers page as quickly as possible. In the meantime, be on the lookout for an email from the National Veterans Training Institute alerting you to the release of webinar number 3, in which we will discuss mental health, substance abuse in housing, challenges, and the agencies and programs you can partner with as you assist homeless clients find and keep good jobs.